Politicians often talk about helping the little guy with their legislation, whether it be let's make homes more affordable. We saw what happened in 2008. Everyone deserves to go to college. Let's make college more affordable by backing the student loans and having government backed student loans that people can never bankrupt on. We've kind of seen and people have experienced the natural consequences of government intervention in the free market, trying to help the little guy. And eventually, guess what? It always helps the rich because it makes everything more expensive. Inflation helps the rich, helps asset owners, and disproportionately hurts the low and middle class. Now, I want to take a look at this stat here from the Visual Capitalist, great website if you've never been there, but it tracks consumer price inflation by type of good or service. And you'll notice a distinct disparity between a couple things. Now, down here in the zero, new cars, household furnishing, clothing, cell phone services, TVs, yada yada. All this below this line are things you do not need. You don't need them. Now let's get into things you do need. Housing has gone up almost 75%. Food and beverage, childcare, medical care services, college textbooks, tuition fees, and hospital services. 200% since over 200% since 2000. Now, why is it? You should ask yourself, why is it that the things we need, all the things above this zero line, are all drastically more expensive when the goal has been to make them more affordable? And capitalism, the goal with capitalism is to give you better products for cheaper. So, what is going on with the supply and demand that is making all of these items more expensive? Another distinction you should notice here is every single one of these industries are heavily regulated and subsidized. Heavily regulated and subsidized. So you notice when your government puts their finger on the scale on these businesses, it makes it harder to compete because of all the regulation. It injects money in the form of college when it says, "Hey, everyone can get a loan." Colleges lower the actual standards of the education itself to get in more students because they are money making organizations. And then all these have lowered due to globalization. Why have we had to globalize? Because we have to export dollars. The dollar as the world reserve currency has some positives and negatives. Positive, we're able to live above our means to a certain extent. But all of these items here in the States that we don't export, these are goods and services here within the States itself, become more expensive. All the items that we outsource, they become less expensive, but at what cost? All the things we need become more expensive. So, reading from the bottom here, the race to the top, inflation in healthcare and education. Rising medical costs have serious consequence for the U.S. population. Recent data indicates that half of Americans now carry medical debt, with the majority owing over $1,000. Also near the top of the chart are education-related categories. In the 60s and 70s, tuition roughly tracked with inflation. But that began to change in the mid-1980s. Since then, tuition costs have marched even upward. Since 2000, tuition price increased by 178%, and college textbooks have jumped 162%. These these super nice professors want you to spend $500 on a textbook. And then it talks about the globalization, why television and toys and things you don't need are becoming cheaper. America is a consumer-based economy. We have to consume more than we produce because we have to export those dollars to the world in order to be the world reserve currency. And I think that's a reason why a lot of the geopolitics, the way it's happening, wars, et cetera, they're economic wars because we want to keep that privilege, and by we I mean politicians, want to keep the privilege of having the world reserve currency because we are able to live above our means by selling treasuries to other countries because they need them. I think all that's changing. And in some ways, that will be good for the United States when we start onshoring goods and services And you will eventually be forced as a voter between a rock and a hard place. You have to shrink the size of government. You have to, because if government stays the same size as they are today, 20% of GDP, while we can't export goods and we're not the world reserve currency, they're going to continue to be that leech. They're going to kill the host, essentially, because we won't be able to live above our means, because people won't be buying treasuries from us, and we'll be selling debt into the open market, and that death spiral will increase. So the voters will eventually be like, hey, wait a second, you keep promising me that you're trying to help the little guy, and everything's more expensive. My life is more expensive. Everything's gone on a parabolic up and to the right chart as far as price, except my wages. My wages have stayed stagnant, and every other thing goes up in price. Why? Government intervention, government regulation, and government subsidies. That's why. And we've been able to get away with it because we can print our way out of it, but that's going away. And slowly but surely, I think people are going to realize, hey, wait a second, my life is worse today than it was 10 years ago. And you keep promising me you're trying to help me, and everything you're doing is making it worse. What gives? So I think you're going to see that's a silver lining. I think you're going to see trend shift, because no matter what the government does, they're going to make everything you need more expensive. Always. The best thing they can do is get out of the way. And that's the last thing I want to do. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all in the next one. Peace.